welcome to Conversations for Charity. For those of you who I haven't met yet, a warm welcome to everyone here today. I'm Christine Noble-Seller, and I am the creator and the host of this online speakers series for animal and nature lovers, which is now in its second year. I work as an animal and nature communication activist and advocate, and as you know, as I put in the chat, I am joining you from Kingston, Ontario. Oh, I see in the chat, some people know each other, or some people are saying hi to our speakers. So this series, Conversations for Charity, is part of my sacred activism. And you might say, what's sacred activism? And it's really, it's also known as love in action or simply volunteer service, because my main work is to promote intuitive interspecies communication, its benefits, raise awareness and human consciousness, as well as funds for ethical animal, wildlife, and nature organizations. And that's what we're doing today. So I'm heartfelt grateful for you, for your interest, your support, and being here today. So as you know, today's topic is how animal sanctuaries benefit from animal communication. I'm just going to mute some background noise so that we can all hear each other super well, and the recording as well. Thank you so much. Okay, so it's an honor today to introduce our two guest speakers. I've never done a Conversations for Charity with two guest speakers, so this is also special. Our guest speakers today, as you know, are Dawn Hayman and Ellie Laks. I'm going to tell you in great detail about these two incredible women, because I want to honor and pay homage to what they've done, and the fact that they're here together today. They've never met another sanctuary who uses animal communication. So we had a nice little chat before we started, and we will after today. So let me start by telling you about Dawn, and then I'll share about Ellie. So Dawn Hayman is one of the pioneers in this field of animal communication. And her professional work started in 1987 when she began doing consultations. Since 1991, she's been teaching workshops in beginning and advanced animal communication, as well as mentoring and ethics workshops as well as mentoring and providing ethics workshops for aspiring animal communicators. She has helped over 8,000 human clients and communicated with over 50,000 animals. In her many years of experience as a communicator, as well as her years of running Spring Farm Cares and the thousands of animals that have come through there, have all provided her with a profound understanding of animals and how animals perceive their world and their connection with humans. Dawn's also got many years of experience working with animals and people going through the death process, and has helped many people feel their connection with their loved ones as they go through the process and later stay connected in spirit. Dawn's knowledge, compassion, and sense of humor combine to lead workshop participants in a whole new understanding of our connection with all of life, from the physical realm to the spirit realm. Dawn also works as a spiritual intuitive. She weaves together her life experiences as an empath, working in the spirit realm, her experiences as an animal communicator, and she lives her mission in the sanctuary of Spring Farm Cares. And speaking about Spring Farm Cares, this is an animal and nature sanctuary that she co-founded with Bonnie Reynolds in 1991. And the sanctuary is home to about 200 to 240 animals, which includes horses, donkeys, ponies, goats, sheep, pigs, cats, rabbits, ducks, and chickens, as well as a 250-acre nature sanctuary. Spring Farm is the home base, is her home base and her life's work. Dawn has also co-written 2 books with Bonnie: If They Could Only Talk, The Miracle of Spring Farm, and The Magic Years. Dawn is also the author of Animal Wisdom for Mankind, as well as many other articles for journals and publications. Dawn has teaches several workshops throughout the year, and most of them are taught right at Spring Farm Cares, utilizing the great gifts and talents of those animal teachers who live at the farm, who wish to share their wisdom to all that listens. Now to introduce Ellie. Ellie Laks is the founder of the Gentle Barn Foundation, which is a national organization that rescues and rehabilitates unwanted animals and heals people with the same stories of abuse and neglect. She too is an animal communicator, a powerful speaker, celebrated animal welfare advocate, humane educator, and the author of My Gentle Barn, creating a sanctuary where animals heal and children learn to hope. Ellie created the Gentle Barn in 1999. She invented her own gentle healing method that allows old, sick, injured, and terrified animals to recover fully using a mix of Western medicine, holistic healing modalities, holding therapy, and lots of love. Ellie is the creator of Cow Hug Therapy and has hosted hundreds of thousands of people who have come to the Gentle Barn seeking hope. Ellie has appeared on some of the most influential media outlets, including The Ellen Show, People Magazine, Life Magazine, Animal Planet, The Huffington Post, Turning Point, Women's World, The New York Times, The Today Show, Good Morning America, and many more. Ellie is also a TEDx speaker and a keynote speaker who motivates her audiences towards higher awareness, profound compassion, realizing dreams, and an enhanced sense of purpose. To date, Ellie has saved thousands of animals and hosted over 500,000 guests. Wow. The Gentle Barn is currently home to approximately 200 animals. The Gentle Barn has 3 locations in the United States, in Los Angeles, California, Nashville, Tennessee, and St. Louis, Missouri. It's Ellie's goal to be the voice for animals, share their stories, and open the hearts of humanity towards all living beings, teaching people kindness and compassion to animals, each other, and our planet. Welcome, Dawn and Ellie.
Thank you.
It's great to have you both here.
It's so good to be here.
So, Dawn and Ellie, today's conversation, 100% net proceeds are donated, going to be split between both your sanctuaries. Tell us how these funds are going to support your sanctuaries.
You want to go first, Ellie?
Sure. So at the Gentle Barn, we have a great big mission. We have hundreds of animals currently, but over the course of the years, we've rescued thousands. We have 3 locations, over 60 staff, over 200 animals, and we're trying to expand to New York. So we have big plans to help both humans and animals. And of course, we can only do it with the help of the community to partner with us to make all of this possible. So the funds go to helping us save more animals and also helping us take care of the animals that we currently have. We not only give our animals vet care, but we give them acupuncture, acupressure, chiropractics, deep tissue massage therapy, ultrasound, ice therapy, water therapy, energetic healing, nutritional supplements, and lots of love. Most of our residents are either compromised with mobility or health, or they are very, very, very old, way past their life expectancy. So we're dealing with mobility issues, lameness, we're dealing with illness, we're dealing with arthritis, and we're dealing with farm animals that are already set up to fail because they're genetically engineered. And so once they're full grown, they are just massive. And so to keep them walking, to keep them comfortable, and to keep them living the best lives possible, it takes an enormous amount of effort. We do music therapy. We have volunteers reading to them, singing to them. We have water therapy. It just takes so much to keep them going for as long as they want to be here. And so the funds really support the animals that are already in our care and allow us to save animals that have nowhere else to go.
Wow, that's incredible. Thank you, Ellie, for sharing more about the Gentle Barn and what's involved in running of the Gentle Barn and the powerful and supportive care that they receive. And I'll put this in the follow-up email that goes out tomorrow with the replay. This week, Ellie participated in another conference. I'm actually speaking in it today. It's the Holistic Rescue and Shelter Conference, Saving Them the Holistic Way, which is being hosted by Dr. Jeff Grognet, who is a veterinarian in Canada. And Ellie goes into great detail about talking about some amazing stories. I think it's stories from the, tales. It's a play on the word tales from the Gentle Barn. Today's actually the last day. It's free to watch. Ellie's interview may be over, but I think you can purchase the recordings for $47 US, and 75% of the proceeds I should give Ellie's link would go back to the Gentle Barn. So I'll add that in the follow-up email. So I just want to say that it was a pleasure to watch you on that interview, Ellie.
Oh, thank you, Christina. I'm so glad that you're participating in it too. It was a wonderful conversation about how we can support our animals holistically.
So if you are working for a shelter or a rescue, or you're volunteering, or you adopt animals and you've missed this, you want to see this, because it's holistic care that applies to all animals. So that's just a little segue. So back to Dawn. Dawn, how are the funds from today going to help Spring Farm Cares?
Well, very much like with the Gentle Barn, actually. So we have about 240 animals currently in residence here. We also do a fair amount of holistic care here, acupuncture. We hope to have chiropractic soon. We lost our practitioner in our area, but we have our own veterinarian on staff full time. So the animals get the care here. They don't have to go. We still have outside vets come in for our large animals as well. But we have, out of the 240 animals, so we have 140 of them are cats, small cats, like domestic cats. And then we have 30 equines, 7 pigs, and we have a whole bunch of goats, like 8 or 9 goats. And again, we, just like Ellie, our animals are all compromised in some way. They are either elderly, they're handicapped in some way, disabled in some way. We specialize in elder care and hospice care. So we do a lot of hospice care for animals, and it's a daily part of our world here. So it's very labor intensive. We have a staff of 25 employees that we take care of there, and that take care of the animals. And so your funds will go directly to the animals and to the programs. It does not go to administrative costs, but it goes directly to the programs themselves. So that's where your money will be going.
Thank you, Dawn and Ellie, for the work that you do. And thank you everyone here today for your interest. Not only do you get to enjoy the company and learn so much about the sanctuaries and how animal communication factors into this, but you can feel good knowing that your registration fees are going directly to support both sanctuaries. So just a little bit of housekeeping in terms of what you can expect today if you haven't been to a conversation before, because I want you to make the most of our time together. The next part is Ellie, Dawn, and I having a conversation. It's really an interview, but I like to call it a conversation. I am just going to now, before I forget, to mute the chat, and that's just so that it's not distracting for the 3 of us when we're speaking. However, if something comes up in the conversation between the 3 of us, I encourage you, write it down, because we're going to be able to open up the conversation and invite you in to join in the Q&A. So after we've finished sharing all the questions that you saw when you signed up, like how does animal communication benefit sanctuaries? Or I keep flipping it around, how do animal communications benefit from animal communication? Dawn and Ellie each have a brief exercise they're going to take us through, which will help us connect to the animals. Then we're going to open it up for the Q&A. I'll share more about that when we get to that point. And then we're going to wrap up with any news that Dawn and Ellie want to share about their sanctuaries. And I'm just going to give you some quick information about what to expect with the follow-up email. Okay, so let's get started. This is fun because, as I said, we've never done it with 2, and it's so fun to have more and more sanctuaries using animal communication. So that's sort of the place to start Dawn and Ellie. We want to hear in all these questions from both of you. So how do you use animal communication in the running of your sanctuaries? Is it like a side hustle? Is it the main focus? And how does it support everybody? You talked about the staff, the volunteers, and the animals. So there's a lot of stakeholders. So what does this look like? You've told us about the size, the locations, the animals, the care, but let's talk about the animal communication part.
Okay, you want me to start?
Yeah, Dawn, go ahead.
Okay, so animal communication is not on the side here. It's direct front and center. And it always has been since what we did. When I first started out, when we first founded Spring Farm, I didn't want to bring the animal communication forward because I was worried, what's that going to do for donations? How are people going to accept this? And you got to remember that was 30 years ago. So actually it was 35 years ago. And it wasn't, animal communication wasn't accepted as much accepted as it is now. It's a vastly different world from 35 years ago. So I spent the first 2 years hiding and not telling anybody. We used it here daily. I mean, it's the center of what everything we do. Everything centers around what the animals want. Our organization grows not in size per se, but in perspective and hopefully in depth of heart based on what the animals are teaching us and where they're guiding us to go. So our entire mission, I actually say that I'm the spokesperson for them. It's their mission that we're doing. And they will tweak that mission every now and then. Every once in a while I get, what I call a master teacher animal in here that just shakes the place up dramatically and it makes us refocus. What are you doing? What are you doing this for? How are you doing this? So animal communication is used daily. Every single animal here has a personalized treatment plan, and their whole life is predicated. How we treat them is predicated on what they want. And so we tried not to go in with any preconceived notions. We can have a general idea that, oh, this goat's going to fit in over here. And the goat gets in here and then tells us I had no interest in doing that whatsoever. And we have to reshape our thinking. We've had animals, they make their own decisions on life and death every single day. So their euthanasias, if it comes to that, or natural death, depending on what the situation is definitely directed by 100% by them. The final say is done by myself and the veterinarian, but we are 100% using animal communication to get from the animal what it is they want. So it's a constant here every single day. As far as staff goes, they certainly know about the animal communication. They're told about it right from day one when we interview them, that it's a part of everything here. They don't have to feel like they do it. They don't have to even believe in it. We don't have any kind of, thing you have to believe in this to work here. But they have to be able to be tolerant, because the number one lesson the animals have taught us over the last 35 years is tolerance and non-judgment and unconditional love. And that's what they're about. So that starts from a management and administrative perspective. We need to hold that space here. And it starts with the people. It starts right with our staff. It starts with everybody, that everybody that walks in the door here is welcome and made to feel that way. That's what the animals do. And so we follow their lead.
And I'm muted as I'm saying that. I said, that sounds wonderful, Dawn. Thank you for kicking us off. And I'd like to hear about from you, Ellie, please.
Yeah. So I think what Dawn and I have in common is that we both started as animal communicators and then started sanctuaries. And so, of course, it has to be front and center in our organizations because it's who we are. I started talking to animals since I was a very, very small child. My earliest memories are of being in the woods, sitting under a tree and just playing with the bunny rabbits, the wild bunny rabbits. They would hop around me. At 6 years old, I had a very vivid memory of playing with my dollies in my room, and all of a sudden in my mind hearing a distress call. And so I walked out my house and down the street and left at the lake and right at the shore, and there was a very, very tall tree and a bird that had fallen out of her nest. And I was like, oh, here I am. Thanks for calling me. I'll help you. And I brought her home and I cared for her and fed her until she was strong enough to fly away. And I thought that that was totally normal. I thought everybody did that. And it was a tremendous shock to my system when I went to school and realized that other people didn't do that. And not only did they not do that, but they were teasing me for doing it. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Don't you hear them? So when opening the Gentle Barn was my dream since I was 7 years old, because at 7, I said, when I grow up, I'm gonna have a big place full of animals and I'm gonna show the world how beautiful they are, because I was always conscious from a very, very early age, from 7, that I could see and hear and understand animals in a way that most people didn't, the people around me didn't. And so I wanted to grow up and help other people see animals the way that I was seeing them. It took me a really, really long time to start the Gentle Barn, but when I finally started it, yeah, of course, with every single animal that came in, I wanted to know what their backstory was, what they had gone through, what they were struggling with, what they needed and wanted, and what I could do to care for them the best that I could. It not only helped me understand them and care for them better, but it also helped me get their cooperation. You know, if the vet had to come and work on them, I would explain beforehand that it was happening and why and what was going to happen and how it would end, so they knew, oh, okay, you know, we're going to come back home, or, oh, okay, you know, they're just going to draw blood and then I'm going to be fine. And so, you know, of course, there were always animals that, even with the explanation, said no, but the majority of the animals, with the deeper understanding of what was about to happen, I would gain their cooperation. And then there were a lot of times where, you know, you have a medical issue and the vets are doing their thing and the farriers are doing their things and the acupuncture and the massage therapists are doing their things, but they're still not resolved. There's still something missing. And that's where animal communication comes in, where you can ask the animal themselves, what is going on? And the animal will say, you know, I need a wedge on my shoe to lift my heel up off the ground and then I'll be sound. Or, you know, this thing is happening in the middle of the night that no one's aware of. And also, like Dawn mentioned, at the end of an animal's life, there are end-of-life decisions that are really, really hard to make. Do they want to stay? Do they want to go? Are they suffering and in pain and they want relief? Do they want to pass naturally? What bucket list items do they have? How can I furnish their last wishes? There's so much to discuss. And I really want to listen to their every word. And I want to know what their bucket list items are. I had this goat named Patience, and she was passing away. And I asked her, Patience, do you want me to help you go faster, or do you want to pass on your own? And she said she wanted help because she was in pain. However, before she went, she wanted me to take her out to the yard so she could be in the sunshine and look around her barnyard and be surrounded by her friends one last time. And she was not mobile. She was laying down. So we put her on a stretcher. We brought her out to the yard. And she knew it was the last time she would ever stand in her barnyard. So she summoned up all her strength and stood up and looked around the barnyard, and all her friends gathered around her. And she stood there breathing in the fresh air and feeling the sunshine for about 20 minutes. And then she collapsed. We put her back on the stretcher. We brought her back to her room and the vet helped her go peacefully. But I would have not known to do that for her unless I had animal communication. So us humans, we take for granted that we can articulate what we want, what we need, how we feel, what we've been through. No, I don't want this operation. Yes, I do want this operation. And animals deserve the same right to have a bigger voice and to be heard for their individual needs. And I am so incredibly grateful every single day that I have this gift, that I'm able to really serve these animals in every way that they want to be served. And like Dawn, animal communication is part of the hiring process when we're hiring animal caretakers. I let them know that I'm an animal communicator and that I will be using animal communication in the care of the animals. And I ask them if they're open to that. About 4 times a year, sometimes we're lucky to have it more. We give classes to all our volunteers and staff so that if they are interested, they can learn animal communication as well, because that's only going to strengthen the way they care for the animals. But I'm just really, really lucky to have this gift and to be able to bring it to the Gentle Barn to serve these animals. Like Dawn, I was, because of the bullying that happened in high school, I was a little like, let's keep it on the down low. I don't want to offend anybody. I don't want our donors to think we're crazy. Like, it's just something that I'll do internally. And it was during the pandemic that I really started embracing who I am and who I want to be, and kind of trying to deliberately shed those old messages and those old traumas of really being able to stand up and say, this is who I am, take me or leave me, I don't care. I'm not going to be ashamed anymore. I'm not going to hide anymore. I want to be, and for 2 reasons. Number one, because I wanted my light to shine brightly and I don't want to be ashamed of who I am. But number 2, I think that we're all intuitive. I think we're all animal lovers. I think that we're all connected to each other, but we've forgotten as a society. And so by me being proud and allowed of my intuitive abilities helps ignite that ability in others, helps validate the intuition of others. And so it's almost my responsibility to share it so that I can awaken those around me. And so now, not only am I obviously using animal communication with our rescued animals, but I have finally opened my own practice where I'm doing animal communication for clients around the world, and helping them forge deeper relationships with their own animals is wonderful, because these animals have so much to say. Oh, you're muted.
I do it because I sometimes shuffle in the background. I don't want to make noise. I want to thank you both for embracing this as a model for animals in care, and being public and educating others and showing what is possible. And I love it because I get to make comments and ask the questions. I really also appreciated, Dawn, what you shared about the master teacher animal that comes along and shakes up your mission statement and brings you to a new level in deepening of awareness, and how you are there serving them. And Ellie, I appreciated how you talked about the end. Well, you both talked about end of life and the number of decisions. And this is true also for our animal family members, and consulting them and honoring and advocating for them, including, last wishes. How do they want this to happen, and what do they want to do, and who do they want to see? Because I think the reality is animal communication is applicable at every life stage, every phase in the animals' lives. And people often, in my experience with their own animal family, only come to it. Sometimes it's changing, though, for the first time after an animal has transitioned. And they often have a lot of grief and tremendous guilt, in fact, about euthanasia. And so that is something that I have done a lot of work with. But let's get back to the conversation. So I want to talk more about how the animals are involved in the sanctuary, in the running of the sanctuary. So in communicating with them, what do the animals tell you about policies and your mission work? You've kind of touched on it. I think we know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask it. How do you incorporate their information, like what they say through animal communication, in making the mission statement, in making the policies? I'm going to add a question that popped up, and I can remind you, I know it's a lot of questions at once. I want to know if other sanctuaries approach you to say, this animal communication, how does it work? How does it help? Can you help us? Or is it silence? Is it radio silence? So really 2 parts to the question. How are the animals influencing the running of the sanctuaries through your policies and your missions? How involved are they? And 2, do you get other sanctuaries asking for advice about this? Do you want to go first this time, Ellie? And then Dawn, I'm gonna switch it.
Okay.
I have a lot of clients all over the world that run their own sanctuaries that come to me to talk to their animals, new animals that are not adjusting, sick animals. They want to know how to heal them and how much pain they're in, end of life decisions, if they want to go, if they want to stay. I talk to pig sanctuaries. I talk to an elephant in Africa. I talk to a tiger at a tiger sanctuary. I talk to a bear in a bear sanctuary. I've talked to dogs that are not being adoptable, and I get to ask the dog, why are they not wanting to be adopted? And what is their ideal family? And then make a plan for that animal based on what that animal wants. Of course, cats and cows and horses and all kinds of animals all over the world for other sanctuaries. And I have to say, it is an absolute honor and privilege to do that work. It's an honor and privilege to talk to any animal anywhere, but to be able to help animals at sanctuary and to be able to connect those people to their voice, it is, wow, it is such an honor and a privilege to do that. Dawn kind of said this before, that we have these master animals that come and shake things up. And really the way that I see things at the Gentle Barn is the animals are the boss. It's their sanctuary and I am but their humble servant. So for example, we're open to the public on Sundays from 10 to 2. And many people have asked us, well, why aren't you open to the public on Saturdays? Or why don't you extend your hours so that more people can come to you after church or later and you can serve more people? And the answer is the animals aren't interested in that. The animals have decided we will give of ourselves for those 4 hours. We need our time in the morning to gather amongst ourselves, to meditate, to prepare ourselves, and to eat and rest. And then we will give of ourselves from 10 to 2, and we will hug people and allow people to hold us. We will absorb their energy. We will give them our energy. We will give them our unconditional love, and we will really be present. But come 2 o'clock, we need to be done. We need to kind of clear our energy from the day. We need to rest and relax. We need to have dinner, and we need to prepare for the night. And they're just not interested in any more hours. And so our hours are 10 to 2, not negotiable. They've also really been instrumental in training us with their routines. We eat every morning at 7. We eat dinner every afternoon between 4 and 5. It must be steady and constant. We don't want varying meal times. We need it to be very set. They let us know how they like to clean us to clean their rooms and when. They're very vocal. Once your ear is trained to listen, oh my God, they are so incredibly vocal. And they're instructing us all the time. How often do they want to be in pasture? How long do they want to be in pasture? When do they want to come in? We have a matriarch horse named Bonnie. And on bright sunny days, she wants to be out in the pasture for as long as possible. But on cold blustery days, by 2 o'clock, she's like, excuse me, I want to come in early and I want to start eating early. And I train my staff that we have to listen to them. That they know what they want, they know how they feel, and that we need to really, really follow their lead. The other thing that we grapple with, and I'm sure that Dawn does too, is really being deliberate in finding veterinarians that will support our animal communication and support what the animal is saying. There's a lot of veterinarians that want to get the job done very, very quickly. Now, over 2 decades later, we have a lot of veterinarians that are vegan, that support my animal communication and the voice of the animal and are very, very supportive. But in the beginning of the Gentle Barn, most of those veterinarians were farm vets, serving the meat and dairy industry. And they saw the animals as only kind of one way. And they would come and want to pull their ears, want to twist their tails, want to twist their lips, want to rush them, push them, slap them. And it's always been in the beginning, like, no, I'm sorry, we don't treat them that way. Can we do this instead? Can we do this instead? And trying to protect the animals from other people that want to hurry them up. And that's just another aspect of following the animal's lead, getting their cooperation, and working with the animal in partnership to get the job done, instead of just treating them like an animal, which the rest of the world wants to treat them as.
Thank you, Ellie. Dawn?
Yeah, very much everything Ellie said I relate to. We also run our place that way too, by what the animals need and want, and listening to them. If people listen to them, they can learn so much. One of the things that I was struck by here is we have not made it mandatory that our staff take our animal communication classes. They're welcome to. I teach workshops throughout the year, every year, and they're welcome to come to my workshops anytime they want to. And I do get some of them that really take an interest in doing that. The others, though, get it by osmosis, and I watch them and it's fun to watch because they come in here and they're not really sure about the animal communication, but you watch them about 3, 4, 5 months, and they'll say to me something like in passing, I think that Colonel just told me, I got from Colonel that he really didn't want to go out this morning, so he wanted to go out on the other pasture instead, and they're listening, and they, if I called it to their attention, they'd freak out. But so I just laugh, to myself, and I think they're getting it, and they get it, and we listen. Same thing with us with visitors. We don't have anywhere near the amount of visitors that the Gentle Barn has here, but we right now, since the pandemic, actually are doing tours by appointment only, and they're limited because we're limited staff wise right now, but what we can do, but it overwhelms the animals, and they don't always want. They're taking care of each other. They're taking care of our staff. And so when you add visitors to the mix, which are important to us, it's important to us that we have the visitors. I don't want to make it sound like that's not the case, but it needs to be on the animals' terms and not on what we would deem to be the best schedule for us. And so we do a lot of restructuring all the time here based on that. I don't know about you, Ellie, but when the clocks changed, the animals were very vocal about, how stupid that was. I've been hearing about that still. I'm still hearing about that from some of them, like, I don't understand this whole business. But they have very structured routines, and they're fed the same time every day unless they need a change. We do it on their schedule, not on ours. And we adapt our schedule to what they do. That's how the day runs around here. I have a funny story. We had a dog here, a border collie named Mac. We no longer have dogs in our sanctuary, but back when we did, Mac was our last dog, and he was incontinent, bladder and bowel. There's no way he could have ever made it in any household. But a lot of people, when they came here to the sanctuary, were critical of how he was, because he was in a kennel. It was a big kennel. And I mean, like 8 feet tall, not a Vera kennel or something like that. Right in the middle of our hall. He was in the back, but he was front and center where he could see every single thing on the farm. That is where he was happy. When we had him in his own room, he literally ran the walls. And we would find he ran the walls so much that he would fling himself around and slam against the walls. And we would find feces on the ceiling from him throwing himself so badly. He hated it. We put him in this confined space, but it's where he could see everybody. We could keep him clean, but he was walked constantly. When the doors closed at night, the staff would let him out, and he'd run around and play hide and seek in the big hall with everybody. And he had a routine, but this entire farm ran off of Mac time. So Mac died about 2.5 years ago. And my barn manager just told me yesterday, actually, that he just removed the signs from all of our tractors, which were when you could drive the tractor when Mac wasn't being walked. So all the Mac walk times were listed. And as they changed, because as he grew older, his walking times changed, but he loved to chase cars. So if they were trying to walk him, tractors were just a distraction. But in his elder years, towards the end of his life, the tractors became enrichment for him. So they would now time the walks with the tractor moving. And I just laughed because every aspect of this farm ran around the schedule of one dog, and nobody batted an eye at it. That's just the way it was. That's how it needed to be. But I want to share a story from a master animal. We had a pony here named Sugar. She came, this is a long time ago now, almost 30 years ago. She came into the farm as our first animal cruelty case. And unfortunately, we've had lots and lots of animal cruelty cases since then. And they bring a special challenge being an animal communicator. And I'm sure that's true for Ellie too. There's a lot of processing that goes on with that. And Sugar was extremely disabled. Her legs were all crippled, and it was a result of abuse. I mean, hers was a result of abuse and neglect, but some of it deliberate. And that was very hard to take. So I went through the process with Sugar. She was a little tiny pony with a humongous personality and spirit. And the court process, her people were arrested. The court process took, 2 years, I think, something like that. And the night that the court case was happening, we were in the barn grooming Sugar, actually. And Bonnie and I were in there. And the humane investigator came to tell us the results of the court hearing. And the results were basically that the people received a slap on the wrist and they had to pay a $300 fine. They had to pay the first vet bill that we did with her. We had thousands of dollars into her by this point. And but she was just this incredible beam of light. So I was so angry when I'm standing there in the barn when they came in and said, you know, they have to pay you your $325 vet bill and that's it. And they weren't told they couldn't have animals again. They weren't told anything. Nothing happened. And this is very typical. And so I was typical now, 30 years later, I can tell you that's typical, but I was outraged. And as we were ranting, the three humans were standing there ranting, I saw Sugar starting to pace in circles in her stall. And so then she stopped and she was just glaring at me. And she had this way of doing that. She glared at me and she said, "Are you done?" And I said, "Excuse me." She said, are you done now? And I said, you know, this is upsetting. And she said, "So I'm going to tell you that I am not angry, and don't you be angry on my behalf, because that will eat you up. Look where I am now. Look how I am. And we just all need to move forward together and love each other and just move forward." That pony changed our entire policy to this day. Our staff is all trained on this. You're allowed to have your feelings when you see these emaciated animals get off a trailer and everything. You're allowed, obviously, to have your emotions. I have them. I mean, you can't avoid it. It's shocking. It's upsetting. And I allow myself to have that initial reaction. Then I take a deep breath. I look at the animal and I say, "Welcome to Spring Farm. Here you are. What do you need? What are we going to do? What do you have to teach? What do you want?" And you go through all of these lists of things, and they just look at you like, wow, somebody's listening to me. What do I want? Nobody's asked me what I want. And you watch them start right from day one, 20 minutes after getting off the trailer, you watch their healing process start, because they're not a neglected, abused animal anymore. Now they're a very loved, treasured animal. And life starts different for them, but you have to allow them to heal. And when we stay in anger and judgment about them, about what's happened to them, it keeps them in that abuse and neglect. And that's the biggest lesson the animals have taught us here. So our staff, right from the get-go, right from they're hired, we give this talk to them. And we reiterate it when an abused animal does come in here. We reiterate the process, because they're going to be a part, our staff is a part of this healing process by not hanging on to that judgment and anger.
You've led us beautifully into the next question, Dawn, and it's your turn to start. So I'm just going to share the question for everyone and see if you want to add anything. How does the ability, because I think your story with Sugar really clearly, deeply, profoundly demonstrated this. How does the ability to communicate with animals affect you personally when dealing with difficult animal cases in rescue situations? And can you share some examples with us? So you gave us an example of Sugar. You told us how it affects you, how it's just, to be human is to feel that pain.
Right.
Is there anything you would like to add on that topic before I turn it over to Ellie?
I will just say that, you know, as an empath myself, ever since I was a child growing up and feeling everybody else's pain as if it's my own, and being aware of all the pain in the world, that we as humans have a choice. where we can choose to focus on the pain in the world, or we can be a part of the healing and the joy. My personal experience, I just share this, it's a personal thing, but I suffer from PTSD. And so, and I've been healing that for many, many years. The animals were critical in saving my life and having me deal with things. So I can relate to what they're going through. It can trigger me very badly in seeing something like this. But I again have to go back to connecting to that animal at the heart level. And they always guide me through that. It's so important that we acknowledge, it's fine to acknowledge our feelings. We need to acknowledge our feelings, but to then kind of like open our hearts to the bigger picture and seeing what's happening. We just took in 2 horses just now. They were not an animal cruelty case, but they are in bad shape. And their owner had died. They were in a field together for 20 years, and they haven't had the best of care in the last few years. They're elderly. They both have feet issues and leg issues. And one of them may not live much longer. She's probably here for hospice care. But when they came in this week, there was a lot of judgment from people here saying, oh, you know, look how awful they look and they shouldn't have had this. These horses did not want that. They were so adamant. They just lost their person who died, and this person loved them, and they loved this person. And I watched them they walked in with just enormous joy to be part of a herd of other horses again, and to have a dry stall where, because their feet are really hurting, where we deep bedded them and they could lay down for the first time in a long time and they could just relax, and you could feel that from them. But when the overlay started and a lot of conversation was going on, I'd come in the barn and I'd hear, you know, well, they shouldn't have been treated that way, and they should have, you know, and I had to stop, and we had to have a meeting and just say, you know, they are here now. This is who they are, but you're criticizing somebody that they love deeply. And we have to be able to separate out that dynamic. It's hard. And as an animal communicator, I feel this is, and Ellie, I'm sure you have the same thing, because I didn't just start being an animal communicator as an adult either. This has been going on since I was a young child. And I have vowed for the animals to always speak what it is that they feel and say, and to be truthful to that, and to honor that. And that's just a deep part of my commitment. But sometimes what the animals have to say with forgiveness and tolerance is not actually what people want to hear. People would rather hang on to the hatred and the negativity on their behalf, but they're not like that. And again and again, the animals reach out to me and they say, you know, you got to help. Let this be the way it is. People don't need to be this way. And I'm just going to throw this in here. I'm asked always, why can't humans be as loving as animals? Why isn't the human heart as kind? And I have to tell you all something. I believe it is. We're here as much for people as we are for the animals. And I believe the human heart has enormous capacity. It's just that we have been blindsided, and we've bought this belief that we don't. And it's not true. The animals see us for who we are, and they are amazing with that. So I'll leave that to Ellie now.
Thank you, Dawn. Ellie?
Dawn, I love what you just said. I agree wholeheartedly. That is so beautiful. I love everything that you just shared. So what I heard Dawn say, and I agree with this, is that, you know, Dawn and I, well, I'm imagining all of us on here are empaths, right? But it works both ways. The way that I'm an empath and I can feel the pain of the animals around me and what they've gone through and their trauma, they're empaths as well and can feel what we're putting out. So if I am engrossed in their story, in their trauma, in their abuse, in their neglect, where they came from, that's what I'm showering them with. And as empaths, they're being immersed in that negative energy, and that negative energy does not promote healing at all. So like Dawn at the Gentle Barn, animals come in and they check their past at the door. it's a given that at a sanctuary, every animal that comes in is going to have a story. They're going to have gone through trauma. They're going to be working through forgiveness or trust issues or health issues or anger issues or loneliness or feelings of never being acknowledged. But the good news is once they pass through our doors, they get all of that. And so a lot of people ask me, how do you do this work? Doesn't it eat you alive? And there are situations where, I'll go into an animal shelter and there's 300 dogs and I'm taking 1 or even 7, which means that I'm leaving a lot over there. Or I go into a slaughterhouse and yes, we're rescuing the mom cow who had a calf on the kill floor. But what about the hundreds of cows still there? And my answer is, I look forward. I don't look back. So when I'm in that slaughterhouse, when I'm in that shelter, when I'm in that cruelty case, when I'm at that backyard butcher, am I seeing the devastation? Am I carrying the pain of that? Of course. But when we put that animal in the trailer or the car or whatever, we drive home through the gates of the Gentle Barn. Now we're looking forward. We are not looking in the past. We're looking forward to their healing. We're looking forward to them playing. We're looking forward to them being healthy. And not only does it help our own sanity to look forward, but it helps the animal themselves, because we need to carry that animal forward into the life that's waiting for them. And one of the things that we do as a healing modality at the Gentle Barn when we're dealing with an animal that's very scared or traumatized or whatnot, while they're in their 30-day quarantine, not only making sure that they're healthy, not only settling in and getting used to our routine, but also that's an opportunity for us to spend one-on-one time with them. And we meditate with them, we sing to them, we read out loud to them, we speak to them. And part of the fundamental way that we heal them during that quarantine is to paint the picture of what their life is going to look like. So when you're healthy, you're going to kick up your heels and run and gallop. You're going to be surrounded by friends in your tribe and humans. Humans are going to come visit you and pet you with their gentle hands. You're going to have big troughs full of fresh food and clean water and soft bedding and rest under shade trees and lay in the sun. And you're going to have toys and treats and you're going to be happy and thriving and never lonely again. You're going to be surrounded by love. And we paint that picture for them every single solitary day. And there are times when I'm painting that picture and an animal will be like, oh God, no one's going to pet me. And I say, no, not now, but one day when you're ready. And we keep painting that picture until they step into it. So I don't want to paint the picture of where they came from. They've already gone through that. I want to paint the picture of where they're headed, what their life is going to look like. And it keeps them healing. It keeps them heading forward. It helps my own sanity. And it helps create the healing process. Because from hearing that, tasting it, smelling it, visualizing what their life is going to look like, it gives them the will to live. It gives them something to live for. And it helps in the healing process. Because the healing process is not just about vet care. It's about giving them a reason to live. It's about addressing their issues and hearing their voice and seeing them for who they are and allowing them to choose to live. Because when an animal does not choose to live, no amount of vet care is ever going to help. But when an animal chooses to live, then the vet care can really, really work. Decades ago, I went to visit another sanctuary. This was a long, long time ago. And what I noticed was they showed me that they had a veal calf, a calf that came from a veal crate, taken away from their mom at birth, put into a box that they couldn't move, never saw the light of day, never touched the earth, was completely alone and malnourished. And she, wasn't doing well. And the sanctuary showed me that they had vet care. But what I noticed immediately was that calf was in the stall completely alone. So yeah, they had a vet coming in giving medication or support, but that calf was sitting there completely alone. And years later, it was time for us to do our first veal calf rescue. And I called that sanctuary and said, well, what do I have to do? Buy, prepare for, know? How do I prepare for the calves that are coming my way? And they said, you just have to know they're going to die. They just don't live, they die. And I hung up the phone and I was like, and I immediately remembered back to the image of this little teeny tiny newborn calf alone in a room. And I said, what can I do differently? And I said, I need to give that calf something to live for. I need to surround that calf with family and nurturing. I need to show that calf what their life is going to look like. Otherwise, why would they live? And by the time they arrived home, I had hundreds of volunteers signed up for 4-hour shifts all through the day and all through the night. And we sang to them and we read to them and we held them and we slept with them and we played music for them. And I had energy healers out and I was talking to them and doing energy healing. And those calves were given something to live for and they made it. And, you know, you have to give them the hope. You can't be the stories of darkness. We need to be the hope for them. We need to usher them forward. We need to give them something to live for. And I mean, like Dawn, one of the biggest lessons these animals have taught me is about forgiveness. I even talked to a client, an animal communication client whose cat was murdered for no reason. And the cat's biggest message to her was, you have to forgive him. There are secrets of the universe that we will never understand, and you have to forgive him because this is hurting you. You have to forgive him and you have to move forward. And that's what.
Sorry, I was just going to say how profound the lessons are. So we have one last question. I'm conscious of time and balancing all the components of the conversation, but I love how really of the 3 questions that I have for this question, you've answered or will answer 2 of them. So we'll just do one. So one of the questions was, what do you wish more people understood about animals and their voice? I think your stories and your sharing have demonstrated that. The other part of that question, what can people do to help animals and communicate with them? I think we'll experience that next with both of your experiential exercises. So we'll have 2 ways of experiencing that. So I'm just going to start with Ellie and then go back to Dawn. So your top tip, really short, really brief, so that we can move into the exercises. We've heard the human perspective. We've relayed the animal perspective. As communicators, because we're all communicators, we're all intuitive, like any language. Sometimes we just need to practice because we're rusty and because of conditioning. Often we run into blocks, so recognizing our blocks. But I would just like to ask you in like 1 sentence, Ellie, what would be a message the animals would like to share today?
I think that animals are always here for us, holding space for us to awaken to love and step into who we're meant to be. They are always giving us that opportunity because alongside animals is where we feel like the best versions of ourselves. They're giving us an opportunity to practice empathy and kindness and compassion. They're giving us an opportunity to be in the present, be grounded, be still and quiet. They're giving us an opportunity to tap into our own intuition and our own empathic powers of healing and understanding. They're giving us opportunities to forgive and to create our own destinies. They are giving us an opportunity to connect, fall in love with one another, support one another, lift each other up instead of competing. They are giving us an opportunity to return to ourselves. And so every single animal that I have ever met is standing, holding space for the possibility of us becoming the great beings that we have been designed to be. And we can choose to be that at any moment.
Thank you for delivering their message. Dawn, what message would you like to relay from the animals?
It's the same one that I get from the animals that Ellie just said is right succinctly, trust your heart, trust who you are, and step into that. Step into the love and the light being that you are. And they're there, the animals are there supporting all of us. And they're basically saying, welcome home. Come back to who you are.
Thank you for relaying their message. So we're going to move into the experiential exercises. So Dawn is going to lead us through a 5-minute exercise, and then Ellie's going to lead us through a 5-minute exercise. So Dawn's is a focusing exercise that she teaches in her workshop. So we talk about one of the ways to communicate with animals. And this is going to help us to drop into our hearts and be present in a receptive state. And then we'll go through Ellie's exercise, which is a guided visualization. So working on an energetic level to see and hold space and upload the blueprint for a perfect world. So Dawn, over to you.
Okay, very good. So this exercise is so simple, and you can leave with this gift today, take it with you, use this all the time. It's something you can do with your eyes closed or eyes open. I'm going to have you do this with your eyes closed just for focusing here in a second. The animals live in the present moment. They're very, very good at that. They're not sitting around worried about the past and dreading the future. They live very much in the present. It doesn't mean they don't understand time, because people misunderstand me when I say that, but they understand the concept of time, but they live very much focused in the present. And people tend to do the opposite. We tend to go in the past. We're either thinking about things or worrying about the future. We're either dreading things, whatever. This is a very easy exercise you can do. And if you do this in your house with your animals, or even outside with your livestock or whatever, you don't have to be in the house. You will find that you will get a reaction from the animals. So just right now, have you close your eyes and take a nice deep breath and slowly let it out. And I just want you to continue breathing slightly deeper and slower than normal. I want you to visualize your breath coming in and out of your heart. Just visualize your breath coming in and out of your heart. And I want you to think of an animal that you have a connection with. It can be an animal that's with you now, an animal that you've had in the past. It doesn't matter. Think of an animal whose love you have felt, whose unconditional love you have felt, and how that warms your heart. And think of the love that you have for that animal. Feel that love you share. And I want you to be aware of the appreciation that you feel for having that connection with that animal. And then I want you to just slowly open your eyes and bring your awareness back to our group. Just be aware of how you feel in your body right now. That literally is how easy it is to be in your heart and present. It's just to take that moment of focus, and focusing on love, appreciation, gratitude puts you right in your heart, drops you right into your heart. And from that space, that's where you can listen so easily to what the animals have to say. You're not listening for a voice, you're listening for the feeling. And from this space, being present in that moment, you will find a lot more peace. And I'll segue that over to Ellie. Toss the ball your way to bring us to the peace.
Ellie, you just need to unmute yourself.
Sorry. The Gentle Barn was my dream since I was 7, but it took me almost 3 decades to finally manifest it. And one of the things that I did as a child, and I don't really know how I knew how to do this. No one taught me this, so I don't know how I knew how to do this. My angels and guides were obviously whispering in my ear, but going to sleep at night, I would imagine the Gentle Barn and what it would look like, and the colors and the smell of the air and the trees and the different kinds of animals. And it became so real in my mind because I would literally live there every single night before bed, that I could smell it, taste it, and touch it. And then at school during the day, I would draw pictures of the Gentle Barn with the animals and the fences and the barns, till my desk, my notebook, and arms were covered in pictures of animals. And I just lived there until it became so. So now, I have a lot of mini goals that I want to manifest, right? For the animals, for my staff, for the organization, blah, 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 for our guests. But really, at the end of the day, if I had a bottom line it, the mission of the Gentle Barn, and I'm imagining this is true for all sanctuaries, is to work ourselves out of a job, to create peace on earth, to guide people to be vegan so that animals are living among us, that they are naturally protected, and we don't need sanctuaries to defend them and protect them and save them. That's what we're all working towards. So I figured one day, if I could manifest the Gentle Barn by visualizing it, tasting it, smelling, and touching it, then why don't I do the same for the world that I want to create? I want to create a peaceful world where we're all living together in harmony. So I need to spend time there every single day. I need to live immersed in that world every single morning, so that every conversation, every experience, everything that I do work-wise is born out of the world that I am trying to step into. And so I have come up with a 5-minute meditation that I do every single solitary morning to live in that world so that I can start manifesting it. And I would be thrilled if you guys would join me, because the more people hold that vision, the faster we'll have it. The reason I do it for 5 minutes only is because it is then sustainable. If I try to do it 30, 45 minutes, even 20 minutes a day, there are going to be days where it's like, oh, I'm too busy. There's an emergency. I can't do it. But no matter what is going on around me, even with emergencies, I can always set aside 5 minutes. So I'm very disciplined. I do it only for 5 minutes every single morning before I start my day. My rule is that I don't leave my bedroom until I've done this meditation. So I'd like to take you through it. So if you can sit comfortably, preferably with your back supported, so you're nice and comfy, put your feet flat on the ground. And if you feel comfortable, close your eyes. I like to hold my palms up, just kind of pulling more from spirit and the universe, but do that if it feels comfortable for you. And in your mind's eye, picture yourself barefoot, walking on a path, and the earth is fertile and spongy beneath your feet. It's nice and cool and soft and fertile beneath your feet. And as you're walking, to the left is this beautiful, beautiful field. On either side of you, actually, on either side of you, as you're going, there's flowers, there's beautiful grasses swaying in the breeze. And you can see the butterflies and the bees and the hummingbirds and all the pollinators at work, bringing those things to life. And as far as the eye can see, you're just seeing beauty in every color and every shape and size of the bees and the butterflies. And you feel the sun over your head, softly, not too piercing and not too hot. The temperature is perfect, not too hot, not too cold. You can feel the glow of the sun on your face and on your arms, and you're warmed perfectly as you walk along. And then the fields start morphing into gardens. And as far as the eye can see, you can see gardens on either side of you with every fruit and vegetable imaginable. Ripe, red tomatoes, beautiful cucumbers and peppers, corn, wheat, rice. You've got fruit trees of every nut and every fruit, peaches swollen with dripping with juice, watermelons, gourds, literally every fruit and vegetable of every single size, shape, and color hanging off these vines in the garden and hanging off the trees. And as you're looking at it, your mouth is watering and you feel full of energy and full of vitality and strength and health just by even looking at those beautiful foods that are feeding the planet. And now you're passing these gardens and you're entering a forest. A beautiful forest where a rich canopy of trees of all heights are shrouding you overhead, and you can feel and see the dappled sunlight coming through the leaves. And you can feel and sense around you wild animals of every kind, monkeys swinging from the trees and calling to each other, deer very gently and quietly walking through, so full of grace. You can see smaller animals climbing up the trees and scurrying around like squirrels and skunks and raccoons. You can hear the birds singing their chorus, so many different voices, so many different pitches. And you feel welcomed in this forest. They are beckoning you to join them because you are one family living in harmony together. And they are welcoming you into their world, and at the same time feel safe by you, knowing that you are passing by peacefully with reverence. Take a deep breath and feel the moss, smell the rich earth and the beautiful trees as you pass through this beautiful forest, where the trees are so tall they are touching the sky, protected. And you almost bow and nod in acknowledgement to these standing tall people. And once you pass through this forest, the fertile earth starts to turn to sand. And you're walking on a sandy beach. And the sand is going between your toes. And the weight of your body is sinking lovingly into the sand. And you feel warmed, and in front of you, there is a beautiful, sprawling ocean of aqua blue. And all of a sudden, the earth starts to shake a little under your feet, and a herd of horses run past because they're living free on our planet. They are living free, respected as neighbors and community members. And you smile to them and wave as they gallop past, congratulating them on their newborn babies and reverently wishing them well on their way. And then you hear a gaggle of geese up above your head, and you look up and there's a V formation of these beautiful geese, and they're honking a welcome to you and a salutation to you. And you are looking up, smiling and waving to them because they are neighbors, they are friends, and they are community members. And by now you've arrived at the shore, and you're looking at this aqua blue water. And you're able to even see through the water to coral that is every color of the rainbow, beautiful, healthy, lush coral. And you can see fish of every shape, size, and color darting about and moving about in their schools. And you're wishing them well, and they are sending you love back from the depths of their homes. And you can see whales bursting out of the water, and you can see dolphins leaping for joy in the air and diving back into the water. And the marine life is thriving, and the ocean is clean. And you're standing there at the shore with the aqua blue water in front of you and the forests and gardens behind you. And you can see people all around holding chickens and hugging cows and walking, holding hands and lifting each other up. And a feeling floods your body of peace and well-being and harmony and connection. That this is our beautiful earth home with its waterfalls and its rainbows and its jungles and forests and its valleys and mountains and its plains and its gardens. And we are safe, and every living being is safe. And we are helpful as everyone around us is helpful to us. And we are empaths, but that causes us good because we are feeling the joy of everyone around us. We are feeling the well-being of everyone around us. And we are not family just with human beings. We are family with every living being. that we share this earth with. And there is reverence and peace and love and goodness for all of us. And smile on your face and feel that goodness in your heart and feel that possibility of this beautiful world in your soul, and know that we have all the resources to create it. We can go vegan. There's beautiful foods. We can free the animals. We can live together in harmony. And this world is within us. And everything that we buy and everywhere that we go and everything that we eat is born out of the possibility of this beautiful, beautiful life. And we are the ones that will create it. Take a few deep breaths in and out. Wiggle your fingers and toes. And when you're ready, come back to the room.
Thank you, Ellie and Dawn, for guiding us through these beautiful and supportive exercises to connect with the animals. Dawn, for showing everyone how we can drop into our heart space and listen. And Ellie, for helping us hold the vision. So we have a few minutes to take questions. So I'm going to open up the chat again. And this is your chance. If you have a question for Ellie and or Dawn, if you have something you want to share, or even something from the exercise. So we're a small group. If you have your video on, you can raise your hand. If you know how to raise your digital hand, you can do that. Or you can put a comment, in the chat, and I will read it and bring attention to it. So for those of you not familiar, whatever device you're using today to join Zoom, you have a dashboard and you're going to look for reactions. You click on that, and under reactions, where you see all these little emoji faces, you hit raise hand and that will put it up. And the same for chat. You look for the little bubble with chat, and that'll allow you in a new screen that opens up to put in a question or comment. So who wants to start off the Q&A? They're all spellbound, Dawn and Ellie. Julia, go ahead, please. I think you're trying to ask a question. Nope, perhaps not. Okay. I'm going to look to the chat. Okay. Quiet group, just absorbing everything. It's okay. Just hold space. Deb writes in the chat, can we hear more about the master teachers? Dawn, I'll turn that over to you since you started with that, please.
Sure. The master teachers are, for me, come around. Not all of the animals want to be master teachers, and I find that I have some that I think are master teachers, and I try to like push them out into the light a little bit. And they, I got a stern lecture from one of them once, and who said to me, I said to him, I know you have all this brilliance, but when anybody comes to you at a workshop, you don't say anything. You just stand there and nod. He just would stand there and go like this as a horse. He would just stand there and nod his head. And he wasn't saying anything. And people would get very frustrated. And I said to him, you have all this brilliance. And he said, because if I share something brilliant, then they're going to expect that every time. And he said, I don't want to live with that pressure. So I'm very careful about not introducing animals as necessarily a master animal. But so looking back, though, we've had many of them here, and they teach really profound things. We used to have a llama here named Gulliver. We don't currently have any llamas, but we had two at the time. And Gulliver had these great big eyes. And when Gulliver looked at you, you knew that you were seen. And I'd have two kinds of people in here. I used to tell him that he should have been our HR person that did all of our hiring, because I used to have two kinds of people. One is they'd come in to the barn and they'd see him and they'd all do the same thing. They go, and then one would say, oh, that llama is creepy. That was one kind of person. And the other one would be like, I feel like I should get down on my knees. This is like a real sacred moment. And so he used to take me through this exercise with some of our staff, you know, of how they reacted to him. What he really did is he reflected the person back to them. He was just a mirror. And he could, when you were around him, he would show you what your beauty is. And not every person was ready for that. And he was fine with that. He understood that not every person was ready. But just watching that process, I mean, there've been so many master animals. But anyway, that's just an example of one.
Great. Ellie, I'm going to send the next question your way in the chat from owner. Is there a way for beginners in animal communication to know whether it is in fact the animal's message? And that's from Ludi.
So I believe that we are all intuitive and we can all talk to animals, but I also believe that, like any muscle, we need to practice. We need to keep working at it, right? You know, when I go to the gym, I'm not going to be this magical professional weightlifter. I have to go to the gym consistently, regularly, and I need to work that muscle. I need to develop that muscle. And it's the same with animal communication. We are all intuitive. We all know how to do this. We need to remember that we know how to do this, but then we need to work that muscle and really develop that muscle. So, of course, there's classes that you can take. The classes don't necessarily teach you how to do it. They help you remember how to do it, and they validate you. The biggest thing that you'll get from taking a class is really getting that validation. Wow, oh my God, I got that. That's right. And you do it often enough. So when I was working on getting my confidence and really believing in myself and getting rid of this shame that I was carrying for my whole life, I took an animal communication course from a woman named Joan Rankwit, and she has a school called Communication with All Life University, and she had a 2-year course that I took. And she required for animal communication and energy healing that we had to do 68 case studies. And it was in those 68 case studies that I really got that validation. Like, oh my God, that's right. Oh my God, that's right. Oh my God, that's right. So, and you learn to differentiate between what is yours and what is the animal's. So I do 2 things that might help and might be helpful to you. The first thing that I do is, before I go into an animal communication, I do a meditation where I'm feeling into my emotions, my body, my mental state, so that I know very clearly what is mine and what is not. Then I go into the animal communication, and my promise for the animal communication process is I will write down every single solitary thing I get, and I will relay every single solitary thing that I write down. Because even now, after I'm 55 and I've been doing animal communication and listening to animals since, I don't know, I was 3. So, right, that's 52 years. I still, to this day, when I'm in an animal communication and I'll get something, there's a voice inside my head going, is that real? Did you make that up? Is that true? But to get rid of that nagging, horrible voice in my head, my promise is I'm going to write down every single thing that I get, and I'm going to relay every single thing that I write down. And I just force myself to do it. And thank you. And we have beautiful, beautiful animal communication sessions, whether it's for an animal that I have here at the Gentle Barn or if it's for a client. The other thing, and this might sound like an unusual answer, but in my world, and you know, you guys will have to let me know if you identify with this, empaths, light workers, givers, caregivers, doers for others, we are typically not very good at doing for ourselves, and therefore not very good at really seeing ourselves. We can see everybody else, we can do for everybody else, but we tend not to take ourselves seriously. And I think that that hurts in the intuitive process, because to learn how to really trust our voice, take our voice seriously, and listen to the information that we're getting is an exercise in taking ourselves seriously and believing and trusting ourselves. So there are a few things that I think are really helpful in the animal communication process. Number 1, practicing self-care, giving to ourselves, caring for ourselves, getting to know ourselves, getting to nurture ourselves helps us hear the voice of the animals that we're talking to. A daily meditation is really, really important because we have to be able to sit in the stillness and the quiet, connect to our higher self, and be able to get the information that way. So a daily meditation process is so, so important. And then also, just to throw this out there, I personally believe that in the intuitive process, it's important to be vegan. I don't know how you guys feel about this, and I'm not trying to be controversial, but I think it's really important to be vegan and adopt a plant-based diet, because I think eating suffering, violence, and pain blocks those channels, but eating gently allows us to really open intuitively and to be more connected to every animal and every being that we're speaking with. So all of those things will help open those channels tremendously.
Thank you, Ellie. And I'm going to give the last question to Dawn, and then we're going to wrap up with your news and the follow-up email. So Dawn, it's sort of a two-point question in the chat from Laura. She worries that her pets are bored as they sit around and lay around a lot. She knows they're enjoying the present moment in a way that is harder for people to do. Can you say more about what they're experiencing when they're hanging out all day? Because she has heard that some animals can be experiencing other dimensions and states of awareness. So is there a concern about them being bored, and what are they doing when they're hanging out? Where are they? What are they experiencing?
And this is a kind of a general answer, because obviously they can be bored. I mean, I've definitely had experiences with animals being bored, but they generally, not like humans, they don't tend to get bored because they tend to be doing their own thing. So they're aware of a lot more in this world than you realize they are aware of. So I've had animals make mention to me of wars that are going on, or unrest. They feel all of that on the planet. They feel pain, but they also feel good things on the planet. So the animals are always filling me with messages of hope. And they seem to feel, the ones that have been talking to me seem to feel that humans are actually awakening. They're excited about that. So a lot of times when they look to you like they're not doing anything, they can be doing energy on a higher level. They are communicating in ways you don't see. They communicate with each other in your household, or certainly our horses out in the field. I mean, I can look out and think our horses are standing out in the field all day, but when they come in, if I ask them, what was your day like? What are you doing? Oh my goodness, I get flooded with all this information. Well, the birds told me this, and they're in communication with everything. So they need, because they are operating on such a high energetic level, they actually need more downtime to process the things that they are taking in and that they're doing through the day. So they're not, in general, they're not bored. I don't want to say no animal ever gets bored, because that's not true, but they're bored less than humans are bored.
Thank you for everyone who asked a question. They were great questions. So Dawn and Ellie, before we say a group goodbye and thank you, we'll start with Dawn since she spoke, and then we'll move to Ellie. Is there anything, or actually, maybe I'll do it this way. I'm going to back up. I'm going to do my part and then ask them what they want to add. So tomorrow, 24 hours from today, you're going to get a follow-up email from me. It's going to have a link to the replay, and thanks to Dawn and Ellie, they have given permission that you can download it. So you can watch it as many times as you want at your convenience for your personal use only, please. It is a time-sensitive link. I will include a date and time stamp so that you know that you have full 7 days to download it. I'm also going to include links to Spring Farm Cares and the Gentle Barn so that you can, if you're not already, learn more about them on their website, sign up for their emails, and follow them on social media. It will also include the amount of the donation that has been made. I will make that later today. So that's what's coming from me, and also information about one more conversation that's happening next month, also with another sanctuary. So back to Dawn and Ellie. Dawn, anything that you want people to know about that's going on at Spring Farm Cares?
Yeah, I would say if you all want to tune in, We have an annual tradition we do every year where I post a message from an animal every day from November 23rd. So the day before the US Thanksgiving, or the day of US Thanksgiving, sorry. So from November 23rd through the 31st, every day on our website, blog, and on our Facebook page, you will see a message from an animal and their photo. And the question I ask each animal is, what are you grateful for in life? And you will laugh and cry and be entertained by the responses that are quite amazing. And so that starts coming up this week. And it's, free to anybody who wants to just get on and take a look.
That's beautiful.
And we'd love to hear comments on Facebook, because the animals, I do share those with the animals. So 2 years ago, they actually had a contest as to who was getting more comments. And I didn't share that publicly. It was behind the scenes.
And Dawn, there's a comment in the chat from Susan that tradition that you do every year, the 25 days, the days of gratitude, is fantastic and looks forward to every year. I'm also signed up and looking forward to it. So thanks for sharing with us. And Ellie, what's going on at the Gentle Barn that you'd like to share with us?
So I want to say that the Gentle Barn is located in Los Angeles, California, Nashville, Tennessee, and St. Louis, Missouri. So if there's a Gentle Barn near you, please come and hug cows, cuddle turkeys, give pigs tummy rubs, hear their stories of resilience, and fall more deeply in love with these amazing, amazing animals. We have a Thanksgiving tradition where on Thanksgiving Day, we invite people to come and cuddle turkeys and feed them their favorite treats, and participate in a Native American drum circle, and join us for vegan pie and hot apple cider. So if there is a Gentle Barn near you, please come and join us. My first book, like you mentioned in the beginning, is My Gentle Barn, Creating a Sanctuary Where Animals Heal and Children Learn to Hope. And it's full of stories of animal communication and talking to these animals. And most importantly, how much these animals have taught me about caring for them and listening to them. And my next book comes out in May, and it's called Cow Hug Therapy, How the Gentle Barn Animals Have Taught Me Everything About Life, Death, and Everything in Between. So look for that, because the first book is about my childhood and how the Gentle Barn started and the first founding animals, and how starting the Gentle Barn. But the second book is about these incredible master teachers that have been at the Gentle Barn and how they've taught me about mental health and self-care and grief, and really raised me to be the matriarch that I am today because of them. So I'm looking forward to sharing that with you.
Great. So in the follow-up email, I'll make a note of a link to the gratitude for Spring Farm Cares, and I'll also add a link for Ellie for your books. So I want to thank our special guests, Dawn Hayman and Ellie Laks, for being here today, for honoring their path, showing what is possible, and making time for us today. Saturdays are a very busy day for Sanctuaries, and because Ellie has visitors on Sunday, Saturday's actually her day off. So thank you for coming on her day off. I want to thank everyone that came live to the conversation. We'll be watching the replay. I want you also to know, and this will be in the follow-up email, that a public replay, which is separate than the replay that you guys get registered for today's talk, will be available a week by next Saturday at a slight discount, because people can't attend live and ask Ellie and Dawn questions. So if you want to continue to share the good news with animal loving friends and family, because again, 100% of the proceeds will continue to be split between both organizations. So it's time to say goodbye. There's lots of messages in the chat. I hope you're seeing them, Dawn and Ellie. I won't read them because we've gone a little over time. I'd invite everyone who wishes to unmute to say a group goodbye and thank you to our guests, Dawn and Ellie, for today's amazing conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Beautiful.
you. Thank you for being with us.
Have a wonderful Saturday, everyone. Thank you for coming.
So much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.